What's the progress on young Gaunt and Eisenhorn versus Ravenor? For those of you who don't necessarily know, young Gaunt, or Lil Gaunt as we refer to it, is the idea of doing some prequel novels that run about Gaunt as in his cadet days with the Hyrkans, that will tack onto the beginning of the sequence as prequels, essentially. Love to do that. Haven't got a gap at the moment, but love to do that. Eisenhorn versus Ravenor, or the Bequin trilogy, which will be the third of the Inquisitor trilogies, and the third and final, so it'll be a trilogy of trilogies. I'm hoping to get seriously written next year. I guess that means it will be published in 2012, just in time for, you know, the apocalypse and the end of the world and all that Mayan shit. So as soon as I can is the answer to that one, and probably sooner than young Gaunt. Jason said, "Dear Mr. Abnett," well, that's very polite of you, Jason. "Dear Mr. Abnett, with regards to the upcoming Bequin trilogy, will Eisenhorn have a better solution to his injuries than the clumsy and, quite frankly, for this reader, painful to read about exoskeleton he adapted at the end of Hereticus and was still using in Thornwish's Talon? I know that exoskeleton fits very well with the feel of 40k. I just realised that his decision to press the fight at the end of Hereticus was taken at the knowledge that he would never be able to fully recover with flawless cybernetics, and I would not want to see that sacrifice reduced in value. I'm even aware that you're writing to a fixed point as Eisenhorn was a character in the Inquisitor game, but given that your novels have transcended and outlasted that game, it would be nice to see Eisenhorn's perpetual suffering reduced at least somewhat." Yes, it would. I really think that depends on how I want to handle Eisenhorn when I get to that book, really. On the one hand, I appreciate you obviously are fond enough of the character to want to see his suffering reduced. On the other hand, you quite clearly state that it would devalue the effort he put into the end of Hereticus to do that. Anyway, we'll see. It won't be an easy fix. Nothing in 40k is an easy fix. Even the coolest and most sort of user-friendly cybernetics still require 8 buckets of coal and a crew of 7 to man on a daily basis. So, also, hoping that you can answer this, probably falls under the category of wishful thinking. Assuming that Medea Betancourt left her shipbuilding business with, I would assume, a mighty fine ship in the tradition of the Eisenhorn's beloved gun cutter to once again adventure with the Inquisition, who will we see her teamed up with? Ravenor or Eisenhorn in the Bequin trilogy? Oh, that's called giving away the plot, I think. I think it's probably fair to say that there's a possibility that Medea will turn up in the final trilogy, because, like I said, never leave a thread behind. But I don't know. It's likely to be Eisenhorn, though, isn't it? Wouldn't you think? It's likely to be Eisenhorn. Have you any plans to bring Ravenor or Eisenhorn into the Sabbath Crusade to tie all your novels together? You mentioned the time period difference there. There is a fairly big time period difference of about 900 years, I think. So that would be difficult. If I could think of a way of doing it. Of course, Gaunt's favourite book is the one that Ravenor wrote, so there is a connection. What about a Harlan Nail novel, says Chris Hatchett. That's a great idea, actually, because you could do a terrific story that was just about a sort of bounty hunter for hire operating in the 40k universe. I think the chances of it happening soon are slim, because he's going to be involved when I finally get to write the Bequin trilogy. He'll be involved in that. But it's a nice idea. Maybe there's an opportunity to do a short story about him at some point, just him on his own. That's got nothing to do with the Inquisitor stuff. Anyway, Jason Hall wonders, will we ever get a glimpse into the formative years of Eisenhorn? I don't know if we will, actually. As I said, I'm going to do that with Gaunt at some point. I don't know about Eisenhorn. We'll see. We'll see. Leonard Smith, any more Inquisition stories in the pipeline? Well, I've said there's going to be a new trilogy coming up. Also, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Mentioning earlier, it's going very well, thank you. Dave Barney, oh, wise and great fellow citizen of the Imperium, what is your favourite 40k character that you have written, created so far? Really difficult to answer that one. Really difficult. How can you choose between John Grammaticus and Cara Swole and Rawn and I don't know, too difficult, really. So will Gideon Ravenor and Cara Swole ever get together? Well, I don't know if there's room inside that chair, to be honest, but we can. I suppose she's very flexible. Will Harlan Nail be back for the last Inquisitor trilogy? He would be very, very sad if they started without him. Let's face it. So interesting. Who knows? And yes, the answer's there. Eisenhorn versus Gaunt. Who wins? Crikey. Now that's just not fair. Technically speaking, I think it would have to be Eisenhorn because he's got the psychic power on his side. And Gaunt hasn't. And Gaunt also, I think, would just be concerned about taking on an agent of the Inquisition because he respects the institution so much. So I think that would wrong-foot him so much at the start of any potential fight that Eisenhorn would wipe the floor with him even if he wasn't for his psychic powers. Having said that, and also that's bearing in mind, of course, that he knows who Eisenhorn is because Eisenhorn is this big character from the past and he admires him enormously. So that's all beside the point. Of course, writing the story, you'd have to put Gaunt in with a fighting chance, and he has gone up against some pretty amazing things. If we had a hypothetical chaotic villainous character who had Eisenhorn's sort of power levels and stuff like that, Gaunt would give him as good as he got, I think. Particularly if he had, I don't know, Larkin on a battlement nearby with the long lads and McVenna waiting to tag team him. I don't know. Probably Eisenhorn, but that's just on a purely technical level. Interestingly, in the comment thread here, Phil Thorogood says, in answer to that question, Tom says Eisenhorn versus Gaunt, who wins? Phil says Bequin, obviously. So there you go. Matthew Farrer, splendid person and writer that he is, has just weighed in with the Eisenhorn versus Gaunt who wins question from earlier, and his answer is the readers. Thank you, Matthew. I recommend you seek out his if you haven't read any of Matthew's work, the Calpurnia novels, which are now in a lovely omnibus, which I got him to sign for me when he was over here visiting us from Australia. Brilliant stuff. He's also written one of the stories in the Sabbath Wells anthology, which I love. So tremendous.